Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a bunch of pointers for the upcoming wipe happening. Things I think you guys should be practicing and making sure you're doing when the wipe actually hits. I'll have a link to a list of all the quest items in the game and hideout items in my Twitch chat. So if you go over there, drop a follow and type !item list for a link to the website. Also, everything in this video will be timestamped, so if you already know about something, feel free to skip ahead to something you want to hear more about. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so when you're starting off a wipe, you're going to have the option to select a bear or Usec. You can see that I chose Usec this wipe. It's really not that big of a deal. A lot of people stress it a little too much. The only main differences in actual gameplay is your starting loot. The bear start with a lot more Russian weapons, like RPKs, whatever. The Usec will start with like M4s, MDR, which when you're end game, stuff like M4s would be a lot better, but the thing is when you start, you can't buy any good attachments, so those guns are actually way worse than what the bears start with. The bears also have to deal with on maps like Lighthouse, where the rogues will shoot you from further, which is the AI on the map. Also not that big of a deal. How the AI work on the map is once you kill them, whether you're Usec or bear, your next raids, they will have further aggro distance on you and they'll kill you on sight from even further. They're not friendly with you to begin with, no matter what faction you choose. The Usec breathing is a little bit quieter than the bear breathing and the injured sounds. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I always like Usec more. I think the clothing looks better. I wouldn't stress it too much. It'll make almost no impact in your starting gameplay. When it comes to leveling fast in this game, there is no secret that like streamers or anyone is doing to make themselves level faster than you. It really is just playtime and efficiency. If everyone's already done the quest like 100 times because they've been playing the game for years, they're just going to blow through it. They're already used to like what they have to do. Even I still use the wiki when I'm doing quests because I don't remember like 800 quests back to back in order, and most of the descriptions on the quest can be pretty vague. You're like trying to find items. So make sure to use the wiki all the time. You can just look up the name of the quest word for word, Escape From Tarkov, everything's on the wiki. The best way to level fast, for me personally, is just always make sure no matter what you're doing, every single raid, you're doing a task. If you don't have a quest to go out and fight players in PvP, if you're going out of your way to chase people when you hear gunshots, you're wasting your time if you actually want to level. So when I'm playing raids, unless I have a kill quest, I'm not going for players unless they're contesting me or like in areas that I need to go through to get my normal quest done. Every single raid questing. I'm never playing raids where I'm not questing unless I need a money farm and hit a reset. If I'm like really down bad on cash or something. But yeah, just try to spend the most of your time actually doing something that's progressing your character in the game. Because even if you have a bad session, you get 2-3 quests done. That's 3 less you got to do off the checklist or closer to max traders. Like even on bad days, you're still making small progression, and that's really all that matters. And when it comes to farming money, I know a lot of people early wipe struggle to get money. They just always find themselves running out, whatever the case might be. The best thing you can do, and don't worry, you don't need a massive backpack, but they definitely help once you get some trader level, is put on whatever the biggest backpack you have. It doesn't matter if it's a scab backpack, a pilgrim, an attack 2, like mechanism, does not matter. Every raid, go in with your biggest backpack and fill it with literally anything. Like if I go and loot a bunch of filing cabinets and my inventory just looks like complete garbage, like this is what I picked up, that's still big money early wipe. And if you're playing raids where you're leaving, where your bags aren't full, you're just wasting slots where you could be filling up with money. I fill up my backpack with complete garbage. It doesn't matter if the item's like 3,000 rubles a slot. And then over the course of the raid while I'm playing it, I continue to pick up items. And then I'll drop things that are cheaper. And the more you play, the more you'll realize the price of all the items. It'll become easier and easier. Yeah, just pick up everything. Once you learn the prices of items, drop them when they realize they're cheap, replace them with better things. Always try to fill your bag, and then every time you get to extract, you should be making really good money. And then when it comes to overall XP, when you're trying to level up early game, it doesn't take that much XP to level. Every single consecutive level afterwards takes more and more XP continuously all the way into the max level, which is 79. So as you can see, when you're in the high 70s, it was like, I think it was like 8 or 9 million XP for one level up. If we're talking early game, you could go to like level 30 with that much XP. But if you want to min-max your XP when you're playing raids, make sure you're always going for headshots on scavs. Anytime you get a headshot, you get bonus XP. Anytime you tag a body, you get XP. If you pick up the weapons off the scavs and then drop them afterwards, even if you don't want them, you get XP. All the little things add up. Like if you do that 100 times and it's 100 XP each, you know, numbers, it's just a lot of XP you're missing out on. It is kind of time consuming though, and it's not worth dying. Like if I kill a scav in the middle of a field, I'm not going to run out and tag its body. but if it's in cover, you might as well. It all adds up. Also, if you're like out of load screen and you just died and you go to your health tab and you're low HP, you have the option to heal from therapist, or you can buy a grizzly first aid kit and then just use this to heal. You'll get a bunch of XP. But just try to min-max small things that give you XP. It definitely adds up. And then another way to stay on top of money is insuring. Every single time I enter a raid, I insure every single item on my character. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be headphones, really bad armor, a bag I would never use again. It could be anything, right? When you insure all, if I'm going to go into a raid, you see, like, I'll just pick a map. Insurance page, insure all. Doesn't matter what the price is. 100k might seem like a lot early wipe if you have a good kit, but every single time you die to a scav, you'll basically get your full kit back. Most people aren't going to find your body. Anytime I get a kill on somebody, I'm throwing my headphones. If they have the same tier helmet, I'm throwing my helmet. If they have a mask, I'm throwing my mask. If I have the same ammo, let's say I have an MDR, like a black one, and then somebody has an SA-58, unpack my MDR mags, throw it out of the map, use their SA-58, and then I have all my ammo to fill those mags with. Dropping all of your kits that are insured, you get them back after like whatever, like 24-hour period. I think it's shorter than that. But it's just an easy way to where I pay a short fee, like 100k. It's like, dude, the slap on my helmet is like 400k. So it's a very small price to pay for how much you're getting back, and it's always worth it. The first couple days of the wipe, you'll feel like you're tanking cash and getting nothing in return. But when the next day rolls around and you're getting all that stuff back, even just selling it, you're making more money than if you just lost it and didn't have it insured. If you want to run it again, you run it again, whatever the case might be. But entirely worth it. I have almost 5,000 raids played at the time of recording this video, and I've insured every single raid I've played the entire wipe. It's completely worth it. If you're new to the game, or you catch yourself just getting fractures or getting shot in the legs while playing raids, make sure that you're pre-popping painkillers all the time. Basically, how the painkiller system works is if you catch a fracture, you don't have to deal with screen blur. If you get shot in the legs in this game, if your leg gets blacked or fractured, your character starts limping. It throws your aim up in the air, so you can't land any shots accurately. You can't move, jump, sprint, anything. So always make sure you have a painkiller active. Different painkillers last different amounts of time. So like Propital is 240, morphine's 300, Vaseline's 300. The injectors, the stims like the morphine and the Propital, activate way faster. So if you do catch a fracture and you need to hit it before you die, the stims are always going to be better. I think Propital is the best painkiller in the game. Also doesn't have any negative side effects of like energy or hydro. But when you're playing early wipe, if you're spamming Vaseline, if you're spamming Golden Star, morphine, whatever it is, lowering your hydro and energy can actually be a good thing because it lets you eat and drink more, which raises your metabolism level. So early wipe, pre-pop a ton. Don't worry about the energy and hydro hit. Just always try to pick up food. You'll end up leveling your metabolism way faster, which is a super useful skill to get maxed early as possible. And you just won't find yourself getting into fights where I sprint across an opening, I catch one in the leg, and then I get stuck in the open and die. Somebody's aim is terrible and they hit you in the leg first, and then they're just hitting you in the chest every bullet while you can't move. There's so many situations where you catch fractures and you just lose fights because of it. So try to always be pre-popped on painkillers. Doesn't matter what you use. One of the biggest things in the game. You can tell if you're pre-popped by when you check your health. You'll have little tabs. There'll be a blue one. You can have it so your health is always displayed on screen. I play with that off, but you know, just make sure you're pre-popped. One of the biggest mistakes you can make in the game is not being pre-popped when you enter a fight. And then when it comes to the hideout, some people will have different opinions on this. I think my way of looking at it's pretty valid. If I'm playing the game, right? Let's say you have limited money. Let's say you had like 2 mil, right? If you play the game and you're just spending your money on kits, you're dying and you're losing them, that money is basically gone forever, and it's never like reinvesting into your character. You didn't make any use of it. You just wasted your money, right? If I have money in the game, doesn't matter how much I have. If I'm under 1 mil, if I'm under 2 mil, if I'm just like in a drought early wipe where I'm dying every raid, I'm still going to spend all my money to max out my hideout. There's just random little things where, like, if you upgrade your laboratory, right? And then you have a quest where you need 3M armor. You have a quest where you need the Blackrock rigs. You have, you know, there's so many quests in the game where you need the ice cream cones. there's just things that are quest items that are all craftable through the hideout. So if you spend your money upgrading this as soon as possible, then anytime you get to a quest where you have to find something, you're not going to get hard stuck behind it, just getting bad luck. The only annoying part is that you basically have to upgrade literally everything as soon as you can. Like if I don't upgrade my vents, there's going to be a point where I can't upgrade, let's say, my lights or my generator or my security or my workbench. So you have to level everything. I think it's totally worth it. Any money you spend in it isn't lost. It's just investing into being like, oh, now I can craft stuff in the future. Late wipe, craft things like M61. There's plenty of quest items that you can make. Capacitors, circuit boards, wires, T-plugs, these radio things for Lightkeeper. Like, there's so many quest items, and you just skip having to grind for them if you level up your hideout. And then you also have things like air filter, level up your physical skills. I think it's 40% faster. Library, the sooner you get this, the better. It increases the amount of XP you get per raid and your practical skill leveling speed. It's every aspect of the hideout is useful. I highly recommend upgrading it. Level your strength endurance faster. It's just super worth. You also get the firing range. I literally use the firing range every single time I get on the game. It doesn't matter if it's like early wipe, late wipe. Whenever I get this built, I just hop in, you know, get a little warm up in, practice your tracking a bit, practice your recoil, just get dialed in. Super worth it. When it comes to early wipe, a lot of people kind of like stress about what they're going to use. I literally think it doesn't matter at all. Like every single gun in the game, early wipe is just complete garbage. When I start the wipe, I usually sell like all the guns in my inventory because they're not good. I guess if you have Unheard Edition, you do start with some better gear. But if I'm looking at my level 1 trader guns, like I'm not going to use this M4. I think this AUG might be quest locked. This would be like decent. This sucks. This sucks. Like all these guns are terrible. The stock MP5, as soon as you get a red dot adapter, this gun's actually like decent. I can build one really quick. But I wouldn't stress too much about where you're using early wipe. I'd say just loot guns in raid, use what you have, pick up attachments. Like if I find a rubber butt pad and an adapter for an AK, my next run's an AK, you know? Like you can't really be choosy. All the ammo's bad. You're basically just aiming for face taps, neck shots, shooting people with bad armor. Like you can't be picky. So, and let me show you just like, and weapon skills don't make that big of a difference. I didn't get my account reset with the bugs. I don't have 45 SMG skill. My SMG skill is pretty low. But this will just show you that like a stock SMG with a good red dot, you can shoot like a beam. Like you don't need meta guns early wipe. I would just stick to like SMGs. You're gonna have to use snipers a lot. Not that big of a deal. And then when it comes to leveling, I've seen a lot of new players stress about what trader do I level first, which is the completely wrong way to look at it. Basically, if you go to any trader level, you can see there is your rank, your level, which will show you your level requirement for the trader, which you can see here. So if I wanted to level up my ref, I need to be at least level 15. I need 0.25 rep. And then for most traders, you need a, well, I guess everyone but ref and fence, you need a certain amount of money spent. So if you're like, yo, I'm going to max out my prapper first, what's going to end up happening is that you're going to have this level cap. Let's say you have 1 rep, 2 rep, 3, it doesn't matter. Let's say you have max rep, right? But you're only level 30. You're not going to have the XP to get to the next trader level if you're not doing all your other quests for your other traders getting XP. So focusing one trader, it's not only like pointless, it's literally a disadvantage. When you start the wipe, accept every single quest you get, and anytime you're on a map where that quest is active, try to do it. You want to level every trader evenly. You'll have an even amount of XP to where you're leveling them all at the same time. You might even be like, okay, I have all my traders level 3, but my Peacekeeper's level 2, and I need to get some rep. Do a couple Peacekeeper quests, get them to 3, you know? Like, there can be times where you prioritize one if you already have all the other requirements, but most of the time, you're going to be locked behind level if you're doing everything at the same pace. So just do every trader quest as you get them until you get to max traders, and then whatever extra time you want to spend questing, you can do that if you want to go for Kappa. But yeah, highly recommend. Don't focus one trader. Do them all as you get them. Try to get them all leveled evenly. It'll make your gameplay a lot easier. This is a brand new mechanic to the game as of the wipe that this was recorded, so right before the wipe happened currently. They made it so you can wish list items, which is a huge deal in your early game. So let's say you're starting off and you're like, okay, I want to upgrade my hideout and I'm on the Peacekeeper quest where I need hoses. There's a new add to wishlist button. You can actually access this in raid. If I wishlist something, it'll now be blue highlighted, as you can see. And the blue highlight just shows you that you want the item. So if I'm on a quest, I'm like, okay, I need flash drives. I'm going to wishlist all my flash drives. I need some power cord for like a craft or something. You could do hideout. Or yeah, just even a hideout upgrade. If you need, it doesn't matter what you need. You can wishlist items now. It's not like, this isn't make or break the game. But when you're early wipe and you're on a quest and you're like, okay, I need 17 different items. They also do have the found in raid status, which will be gold if it's for a quest. But if you need it for hideout and it's not for a quest, just make sure that you're wishlisting things that you want. Maybe it's a lot of money. So you'll be like, oh, these like thermites right now are like 90k. I'm just going to do like barter. And then anytime I walk over an item, it'll just remind me that I should be picking them up. Because prices for things change all the time. So whatever makes it easier for you to remember that I should be picking stuff up, it'll make a big deal early game. Especially when, like, if you're new and you're like, oh, I don't know what all these items are worth, and I have an entire backpack full of random garbage, but then I have the things that are high value wishlisted, you can kind of just, it can help you pick through what you want to pick up and what you don't want to pick up. So I'd recommend doing it. I'll probably be doing it next wipe when I'm on quest. But yeah, small mechanic, I think it'll help a lot. So something I'd highly recommend doing early wipe, you won't really have to worry about it on certain traders, mainly like therapist and mechanic, because these two traders sell items for the most money for the most part. But if I have an item and let's say it's like a barter item, right? Like early wipe, if I pick up a lion or a raven or a nice guy pass, silver badge, like all these items have very high vendor prices. You may be tempted to flee some of these if they're worth barters, but I'd highly recommend just vendoring everything to start if you want to make money, because it'll level up the actual like cash price on your trader of how much money you've spent in the wipe, and you need to do this to increase your trader levels. So anytime you pick up clothing, I would just try to get your ragband maxed out, spend like your 2-3 mil, whatever you need to do to get trader level 4. Same thing with Prapper. Even if you're not making more money, just tank the loss to level up the trader. It's completely worth it. And then once you have everything maxed out, then I'd recommend fleeing stuff. If you're selling certain barter items that aren't high vendor price, like corrugated hoses, like I would never sell these to traders. They go for like nothing, but early wipe on the flea, they could be like 100k plus. So just keep in mind, I would check all your items on the flea market. Every time you find something, like filter by item, they'll pull up the price, just list it for the cheapest, and you'll make a ton of money easy. So this is more for like new players, but I see a lot of people do this still, and I think it's genuinely bad. If you play with aim down sight, or just aim on press, which is you press it once and you stay aimed, and you release the right click and you're still aimed, I would recommend changing this to continuous, which is you have to hold it the entire time. In general, when you're trying to get better at games or you're just doing more inputs, if you're playing on toggle inputs, you can get locked in an input to where like, oh, if I aim and then I want to run this and then my character is like aiming, it's just gonna make your timings for everything worse. You just have to do more to, you have to do more inputs to do the same amount of things rather than just playing on continuous. I can just aim, unaim. It just makes it really easy. If I'm like shooting, I get shot at and I instantly want to run, I don't have to like unaim my gun or do anything. But I'd really recommend playing continuous. I think it's a lot better. It is personal preference. I mean, if you're good at the game and you play press, by all means keep playing press, but there is a reason why vast majority of players use continuous. And then all around, just for keybinds, just kind of like touching up on some. When it comes to like lean keys, it doesn't really matter what you use. It doesn't matter what you use for directional input. Really anything in general. Like, a lot of people will tell you, you should play this, you should play that. It's literally just personal preference. I've seen so many players that are like, oh, don't play QE lean because you're not going to have good movement, or you're just not going to be able to like lean while walking or doing whatever. But it's really, I play QE leans, I play continuous, so when I lean, I have to hold E. When I let go, I unlean. You know, it's the same for both my keys. If I'm walking up to a corner, I'm just used to like leaning while walking. It's not something I ever struggle to do. But if you practice with any keybind, it doesn't matter what it is, you'll get used to it. I think it's good. Some people use QE lean binds, Some people play QE inverted, so if I press E, I lean to my left instead. Some people play VB. I know people that play Siege do that more often. Some people play mouse buttons. It really doesn't matter. It's just whatever you think is most comfortable. It's like, yeah, I've just seen so many people say don't play QE. I've been playing the game at the highest level on QE for years now. It does not matter. Just use whatever's comfortable to you. Same thing with crouch. Some people play control crouch. I play C crouch. I think it's easier to press with my thumb. Especially when I'm sprinting all the time. I don't want my pinky to go from shift to control over and over again. I think that's a lot harder than just having my pinky on shift and then my crouch on C. Because then I can crouch, aim out, and hold my breath at the same time by pressing shift with my pinky. So, whatever you think works, works. I wouldn't really look too far into keybinds. You can literally play on any keybind, any mouse sensitivity. Doesn't matter what DPI you play, mouse pad, doesn't matter. Like, if you put in the time and practice, you can play at the highest level with basically like any configuration of settings. Okay, so one of the first mechanics I'm going to go over is sprint free looking. So anytime you're playing the game, if you're walking into an area and you don't know if there's people, the worst thing you can do is kind of just like regular walk into any opening, not knowing if there's people. Because if there's a guy holding this angle, if he's sitting here holding the front door, if they're holding anything and you're walking normally, you're a super easy target to hit. So if I'm pulling up and I don't know if there's a guy in here and I sprint free look, I'm always going to have a better chance of getting a spot off on somebody without dying to them because I'm moving horizontal, so I'm harder to track, I'm harder to hit shots on. You can react very easily after you're free looking, so I can like run, get my right hand, lean out, shoot. So always sprint free look everything when you're checking stuff. Always try to be walking sideways when you're clearing your angle. I never want to even walk in here at the staircase and check it like this. Walking directly like vertical towards the stairs. I'd rather free look, check, walk up from behind the door so I don't have line of sight, free look, check. If I want to know what's down this hall, run to my next opening. Which is why it's really useful to like open doors in front of you, which is a very big thing. So let's say I'm pulling up from this bathroom, right? So usually when you pull up from the backside of two-story dorms, this bathroom door is shut. So you're pulling up from here, right? You hop in the window, you walk in, and now I have this door. I have more space so that I can play the game and kind of just take angles, check for people while staying hard to hit. If the angle's bad and I can't win off of it, I can run backwards. If there was a guy holding this, I can nade off the wall here, push up to my next room, get some space, blows up, swing out. You kind of just want to always have an empty space in front of you, so you can always run forward and sprint free look people. Another thing, if I'm pulling upstairs, I think there's a guy, he's holding this angle, right? I'm gonna throw a grenade down this hall, break his line of sight, open the door, get back to cover, and now I can get a free look on him and get better info on him without dying to him. And then if you're ever playing an area and you want to be defensive, right? Let's say it's early wipe, and you think somebody's gonna pull up, and you're trying to hit these quest rooms, right? You gotta walk in here, you gotta get your briefcase. So if I'm playing this building and I want to be defensive, and I'm like, okay, I think squads are gonna pull up, what do I do to ensure that I win this fight? Knowing that people are gonna climb through this bathroom, shut this door. So now what happens when a guy pulls up from here? He doesn't have that angle to sprint off to. He just has to swing out in the open on the left. He could always nade you off your angle, but as long as you're playing this close, as soon as you hear a nade pin go off, you swing him, right? So, I'm pulling up in here. I want to play defensive. I'm going to shut this door. This will spawn shut. I could always walk backwards before I unlock the room, open these doors. If I hear a guy pulling up, he could be like, okay, now I want to back up. And now I have this angle to play. If this guy starts nading me, if he starts winning the fight, if I don't think I'm going to win, I can vault out this window. I can vault out this window. This angle kind of sucks because people could just shoot you through the door. You're not really in cover. You're just hard to see. But always just give yourself more like options to back up, more area to play with. That's one of the biggest things to win fights in this game. So a very big mechanic in the game for winning fights is going for right hands. A good way to explain it is say, let's say I take this pillar, right? I put it in the middle of my screen. The amount of distance I have to lean to my right to get my gun around the corner is significantly less than it is for the left side. And I stay in cover a lot more. So your character, on other people's POV and yours, is basically like your when you're not aiming down sight, it's this. So like I'm basically entirely behind cover for the other person, yet I'm able to shoot at them when I'm going for a right hand. If I were to sit here and I wanted to go for a left hand, look how far I have to lean to get my gun around the corner. You can just tell by looking at my character's body that I'm completely exposed in the open when I'm going for a left compared to when I'm going for a right. I'm like full in cover. So anytime you're going for a fight, it's always better to get a right hand. So if I'm pulling up on any opening, a good way to think of it is you always want a free look, right? So if I'm pulling up from the right side of an opening on my POV, it'd be the enemy's left side. You're always pulling up with the ability to sprint free look first, right? So if I'm pulling up to this door, I'm on the right side of the door. I sprint free look it first, I get the info, and then I'm on my right hand because I'm on the left side of the opening. So anytime you're pulling up to an opening, just keep in mind, if you sprint free look off onto the left side of the opening, you're always getting the right hand at the same time. And if you're ever pulling up from the left, if you don't want to get headshot, just try to throw your character's head off. So if I'm doing a sprint free look, if I just do it again, the guy might pre-fire me, right? So when I'm going back, try to go for like a jump or something. It'll make you a lot harder to hit. You move a lot quicker when you're jumping. As long as you give yourself a small sprint up beforehand, it's a very good way to get info and get off onto the other side. Also can help you peek over stuff. Like if I'm trying to see over this door, a jump might let me see the staircase where a normal sprint could be a little bit harder. But character movement, throwing yourself off, it's the same thing as if I want a right hand, let's say in here. If I have a guy holding right here, like where these boxes are, and I peek him and we shoot at each other, and then I peek him and we shoot at each other, if I keep peeking the same angle like this, he's eventually going to hit me, right? So it's a good thing that maybe I stand up and shoot, and then crouch and shoot. Crouch, stand up. Throwing off your head height is going to make yourself way harder to hit, and it'll just give you a huge advantage in fights with staying unpredictable. Let's say I'm pulling up on two-story dorms, how I'd actually play it if I was going to like do a drill on it. I would free look it. If I didn't get a good like visual, do it again. Walk in, kind of clear the close angle, clear the corner, relook it, see if there's people. If I got stuck in here and there was a guy holding that, I'd maybe try to nade and just like throw it off of this angle because I'd still be behind the cover. The cover. So I'd just throw it around here. It'd bounce down. You can take the staircase if you wanted to. You always have to be sure that there's a guy not sitting right here. It's pretty common that people will sit at the top of the stairs and just lean like this. So either when you're walking up, I like to just sprint in a circle really fast when I walk up this to try to bait shots. I go like halfway up and go straight back in. If you're holding this angle and somebody's walking up like that, you're going to assume they're going to the right, so they're not going to track for you to go straight back down instantly. So a really good way to play it, walk in, bait it. And then if you want to try to get ground on this, you can nade over the top, walk up, get your right hand. If this guy's mag dumping, if he goes for a reload, whatever, you can just push off your nade. You can get this door open while he's in the corner. Play off of this right hand. You can always open doors. It's basically you're just trying to always open up more angles for you to be able to free look on people so that you can be moving quick and it'll be really hard for them to hit you. Here, grenade off if there's dudes sitting on the angle. When they unpeak, open yourself up ground, play it. That's basically it. Another good thing to think of, if you're ever playing angles and you want to make sure that you're not just getting outgunned by multiple people. Let's say I'm pulling up three-story dorms. This is just a really good angle to show. Let's say I have a guy crouching right here behind this pillar, really common spot, or right here. These are probably the two most common angles to hold when you're on first floor. And let's say I even have a guy right here for some reason. This is not a good angle, but let's say there is, right? I got two people, one on each side of the hall. If I'm walking in and I sprint free like this, okay, I see two people. The worst thing I could do is like walk out in the open, expose myself, and then just like try to outgun two dudes at the same time or both standing still. If you're ever standing still and crouching, you already have a recoil bonus. So if I peek into this and there's two guys holding, I'm basically going to lose it every single time unless the other two guys are terrible. So if I'm pulling up and I'm like, okay, I see two. I want to stay close to this piece of the wall right here. So when I'm peeking, I can be like, okay, I'm just fighting one guy at a time. Just fighting one guy at a time. If I go out here and I have to shoot two, I'm losing. So always try to play your cover really close to the wall when you're fighting two people so that you're still getting 1v1s so you're not getting 2v1'd at the same time. It's like a very, very big mechanic. Same thing if I'm playing up here, right? Sometimes you'll have a guy sitting right here and you'll have a guy sitting right here. there's nothing you could really do to ever be able to play this space without just getting like 2v1 if I play the opening. I can't even walk forward to open this because I'd get shot from one side. If I nade my left, guy on the right still playing. But you can use a nade to try to get a 1v1. So let's say I'm gonna nade my right side, because this guy, no matter what's a bad peek for me. I gotta lean out on the left hand to shoot him while he has a right hand, and then this guy could shoot me in the back the entire time. So probably a better play here would be I'm gonna nade my left side and then peek for my right guy. I can either crouch peek him, stand peek, whatever, jiggle him right. If you had a teammate, you could have like a teammate nade right while you nade left. If I'm ever in a 1v1 down this hall, you can nade them, they walk off the angle, you walk up, open the door while the nade's going off, boom, now you have a right hand. You can shoot them like the crack of the door. So once again, play in space, try not to over peek, try not to fight multiple people at once. Just always remember, you're trying to bait people into shooting you while trying to stay hard to hit. That's just the best thing you can do. Let's say you don't have a good play, right? Let's say you have like 3 people camping up top. There's no real way you can like take an angle without overexposing to anyone. You're just in a bad raid. You're in a standstill, everyone's holding, you just kind of want to send it. Something that's always worth doing is trying to break your own audio while you're going for a play. So let's say there's a guy up here, right? We've shot at each other, I'm down the stairs, he's holding a right hand. I can't go up either side because he has teammates camping up top. You could always just create audio of you doing something else while you're fighting a team. So let's say this guy is sitting on this angle and I want to swing him. Something I can do is say I'll throw a grenade or open a door or shoot a window or break glass before I do something, because the audio will be so loud that it might mask my footsteps or it'll make them think I'm doing a play, right? So if this guy's up top and there's a window here, it's pretty common that people jump out the windows. So if I want to try to bait him, I could be like, shoot the window, jump so he thinks I'm going out, and then swing up. Or I could have like a grenade out in my hand, right? I could like open a door, throw the grenade, and while the grenade's going off, swing. Because he might not hear the footsteps of me coming up while the grenade's going off. Obviously, like an actual grenade would be better than a flashbang there. But breaking your audio while you're going for plays is actually massive. Especially when the time to kill is so fast. If somebody doesn't hear you and you already know where they are, and then you're just coming out with no sound pre-aiming, it's pretty likely that you're going to win the fight every time. So, something really important to know when you're playing mainly close quarters, or if you're just playing an angle where you don't want to be hit, is that walking around when you're hip firing normally is a lot faster than you're walking while aiming down sight. You can always see your character in the bottom left. Your character, the little arrow right above the blue bar, shows how fast your character is moving. So if I'm walking normally, it's full. If I aim down sight, it's near half. If I crouch, it's relative to like the character move speed. But yeah, it's a lot slower to walk around ADS than it is normal. And then when you're sprinting, you can see the bar goes above. So if I'm ever playing an angle close and I don't want to be hit, or I just want to play it really fast so I'm harder to hit, if I walk this corner while just aiming, I'm moving really slow, right? If there's a guy holding this, it'd be really easy for him to hit me. Even if he had bad tracking, you'd be in the same spot for long enough that if you just shot straight, he would still hit you like 2-3 times. So if I'm walking this corner normal ADSing, I'm probably going to get hit. If I walk normal, I'd be a lot harder to hit. And then a good thing to do is if you know somebody's on an exact angle and you want to get across it really quick and just get 1 or 2 shots in, is sprinting before you get to the angle. Because you can actually throw off your audio too, or like they'll hear you walking up and then the audio will cut right as you're swinging, so you're hard to tell that like you're actually coming around the corner. You're also just moving a lot faster when you carry your speed like that. There is like a slowdown period with Inertia to where you're almost moving sprint speed while walking sideways for the first second. So anytime you're on an angle and you know you want to pre-fire something, just make sure to hit a little sprint before you do it. It'll make you move a lot faster, you're a lot harder to hit. The only thing you don't want to do is be sprinting for too long. Like if there was a guy, let's say he was sitting in this room and I was about to swing him and I don't know if he's going to swing out. If he hears me running this entire length of this hallway to like here and I'm still sprinting and he's coming out with his gun out, if you're caught in a sprint, like you're probably going to die because he's going to get first 2-3 shots on you. And then as soon as you're getting hit, you're getting aim kicked, you're getting screen blur, it's going to be hard to get shots back. So make sure you're never like sprinting for too long. And then whenever you're walking up on somebody on a hall that's hard to push like this, try to be walking sideways a bit. It does help you with trying to stay alive. It's just, if I'm walking in a vertical line, I'm always easier to hit than if I'm like strafing side to side and leaning while walking down something. If you ever find yourself where you're crouching behind something and you barely can't aim over the top of it, and you don't want to like stand up, you don't want to overexpose, you don't want higher recoil, if you just want to crouch shoot for low recoil and get better cover, instead of using your scroll slider, if you're barely on the lip of not being able to aim over something, if you use any input, WASD, and you start walking, it raises your character height so that you can shoot over stuff. So if you're ever like right behind a car, or like on a head glitch or doing anything, and you want to be able to shoot somebody, just remember you can always stand up just from walking. You don't actually have to like use your crouch input or overexpose or anything. So pretty obscure mechanic. You might not find a lot of use in it, but it's definitely really good to know, and it just saves you a lot of time. If I'm ever in a fight where like, oh, I can't aim over the top of this, and you just stand up like this, like, it's so hard for you to like hit a shot while your character is standing compared to somebody who's just holding the angle for you to come up all slow. So just start walking, makes the shot way easier instead of just doing something worse. Why would you? So this mechanic actually got nerfed, but it's still extremely useful, is just jump shotting. You can shoot while jumping. Your first couple shots are pretty accurate. It's definitely not as good as what it used to be once again. But if I'm fighting somebody on the other side of a wall, a lot of the times people will hear me, right? Like say there's a guy just on this bus. They'll just sit there and they won't even look at the wall because they know you can't shoot them through it, and people don't expect you to jump shot, especially if they're new. So walking up to angles and just jumping and shooting over them, one of the biggest mechanics in the game. It doesn't even matter if I kill this guy, right? If he's sitting there and I jump this, boom, let's say I black both his arms. Let's say I hit him in the head and he lives it, and now he's double vision. I get his chest low, anything. Any damage I get on this guy is now just giving me info. It's making him make noise. It's putting him at a disadvantage. So by the time I actually want to pull up on the angle, I have an advantage over him, right? Figure out if the guy's on the angle, try to bait shots, walk up, and now when I'm actually in this fight, his accuracy is not going to be 100%. His health isn't 100%. His movement is time to aim. Anytime you can jump something just to get info, to see somebody, to hit them, it doesn't have to be a kill. Any of that is super useful because the game is all information, right? If I jump that corner and I have this MP5 and I see a guy as an Alton, okay, now I know I have to hit him in the neck, or now I know I have to leg him, or I want to back up or play far away, or whatever it might be, right? Anytime you get info, it's extremely useful. Most people, when they pull grenades, right, like they'll be behind this pipe or like piece of cover, and they'll just pull a grenade out normal, they'll stand still, they'll pull it, they'll throw it, and they're basically like easy to shoot the entire time they're doing it, or they're just not closing space. So if I'm sitting here, why spend, if I want to go to Fortress, right, my goal is to get to this opening. Why would I walk in the open while pulling a grenade and then click it and then throw it all slow when I could just be doing it while moving in one motion? So what you can do, if I pull a grenade, I can instantly start sprinting, right? And then a lot of people stand still and then throw it. You don't have to do that. You can just pull a grenade. You can even do it while jumping. So say I want to close this gap, jump, click, look in the direction, grenade pops out the middle of your screen. So if you're ever trying to close a gap and you want to throw a grenade, let's say like a really common spot that I usually pull up from is skeleton, right? If I get any spawn by new gas, if I'm coming from dorms, I always come from here. I'll walk up, jump up this beam. I kind of play these tracks because it's more cover. I might be able to spot a guy up top. And then, okay, I'm coming up to the opening. I get my grenade out, flick it, sprint, look up. Grenade flies out the middle of my screen. And the entire time, I'm keeping my momentum getting to this opening sooner than later. Okay, let's say you want to recreate it. I'm just going to break it down so it's easy. You have to be in a state of standing still where you're not sprinting, or you have to be in a state where you're jumping while sprinting. You can hear I nade pinned it while I was in the air. I'll do it one more time. Just pull your grenade out, start sprinting, jump and click. Look in the direction you want to throw it, pops out the middle of your screen. Also, your grenades fly a lot further when you're doing this. So if you ever want to get like a super far throw, get an M67, click it and jump before you throw it. That thing launches. It literally goes across the entire map. The only thing is, once again, you're not invincible when you're throwing grenades. So if there's a guy on this opening and you pull a grenade and you're in the open, he's just going to kill you. But if I'm pulling up outside of audible distance, prime the nade, look where I want to throw it, jump through the bush, I don't get slowed down, walk in, Grenades going off while I'm hitting wood. Might not hear the audio, and now you're playing your angles, right? Frame all your common stuff. That's the best way to push anything in this game with a grenade. You can be standing still, click it, start sprinting, throws. Sometimes they'll bug out and go sideways. That is something that happens. You can jump throw it. You can sprint, pull it, click it while jumping. Really, really useful mechanic. It takes some practice to get used to the throwing distance because it's definitely different from normal. But huge mechanic, I'm telling you, like nobody utilizes it. I do it every day. Super useful. So this is, I'm just going to throw this in because early wipe, you're going to get into a lot of fights here. You're not necessarily going to have quests here, but there's so many loot spawns. You have like food spawns, weapon crates, med boxes, crates up top. You're going to fight here all the time, right? So this building, one, the audio is super scuffed. If you're down here and somebody's up top, they're not going to hear you. So you can literally just sprint up these stairs and then get with fights on people. If they're on the other sides of these walls, mainly downstairs, they're not going to have audio of you. Like if somebody's shooting right here, they're not going to hear you at all. If you're sprinting on this side of the wall and they're on that side of the wall, just on the other side of this gap, they don't hear you. So when you're pulling up to fight people in this room, you could always like grenade here and then prime it and throw it off this angle and they won't hear it. And you'll get so many people camping in here. You'll have people sitting on top of this, in this corner, just wherever, right? This room's camped all the time. So a lot of the time you're not going to want to walk in there because you have to check two directions at once. So this is a play that's even better. If you have a guy sitting downstairs and you want to get him out of that room, they probably won't react to this because people don't know about the play. Roll a grenade down, walk up to this opening, sprint into the wall. You'll catch the chain link fence so you won't take damage. And then you can jump on this angle to throw off your head height. You can always walk into the room if you don't want this guy to kill you and just 360 to bait for shots. Do whatever you need to do. But that grenade's really good. You'll kill anybody in this room like out to here, basically. So when you're dropping off of that pillar, if you have an M67, they're going to be standing in the opening while you're hitting the ground. And you should be able to get a free kill on them because nobody expects you to do that. This might be a annoying habit to get used to, but trust me, it's worth it. It'll make you win way more of your fights. Is making sure you bag drop when you get into fights. If you ever look at your character and this number's white, you're good. You don't need a bag drop. You're underweight. You're going to be moving quick. Your movement's going to feel fluid. If you ever see this number yellow, which will happen a lot early wipe, so this is mainly an early wipe tip, make sure you're always bag dropping. If I have a bunch of stuff in my bag and I'm walking around overweight, you're just going to have sluggish movement. You're going to like walk to a corner and instead of doing a quick little stop and lean, your character's going to like walk out like this and then walk slow. And you're going to die when you're going for this peak. So if you ever see this number yellow, hit the double tap on Z, drop the bag, keep yourself moving light. Another big thing is your footstep audio. Let's say I just killed 2-3 guys that picked up all their loot. I'm like 60, 70 kilos. Your footsteps will be so loud that like I could be sprinting in here and a guy on the front of skeleton will hear me, right? So if I'm getting into any fight, for audio purposes, for movement purposes, just hit the double tap Z, drop your bag, you'll win way more fights. Another tip, this is probably less used around like most people, but when you're getting a bit better at the game, I'd recommend using it more, is let's say I'm in a fight and it's an angle that I just like don't like fighting off of. Yeah, this is perfect. Let's say there's a guy sitting right here, right? This actually isn't that good of an angle for him. Let's say there's a guy here or a guy here. It's just on some bad angle where I wouldn't want to peek, right? If a guy was holding this, where I'm standing now, and I was right here, it's just a bad left hand. I don't have a right hand ever. It's just a really, really bad angle for me, right? If I peek into this, I'm more than likely to lose. So what you can do is using grenades to break audio and just to like, you can screen shake people with grenades. So if they're blowing up right above or below somebody, it can still like rattle their screen while it's going off. So if I wanted to fight this guy and he didn't hear me pull the grenade, right? He's just sitting there. I could go up top and roll a grenade above him. And then when the grenade's going off, peek out. If he was sitting on top of this, it could rattle his screen. It could break his audio. He won't be able to tell when I'm swinging. I'll do an example on myself. If somebody were to be walking off an angle like this while that grenade was going off, or even just the slightest bit of screen shake can throw people off and just like, you know, it kind of just messes with their attention span so they can't tell that something's actually happening. So I'd highly recommend just throwing grenades, even if they're not going to kill people. just to break audio, peek out when stuff is going off. Anything you can do to like break your info when you're going for a play is just gonna make it so every time you peek somebody, you're more likely to win it. And just beware, if I'm going for a grenade play, let's say, I throw one down, get the guy off the angle, I walk in here. So now I have a little bit of a closer right hand to play off on this guy. This room's not really good to be in, per se. But you always gotta be careful. If I'm sitting really close to somebody, say he's right here, right on that angle, and I'm sitting close enough for him to get audio and I pull a grenade out, there's a good chance this guy rushes me and then just ends up killing me. So always be aware if you're pulling your grenades too close. Like, if there's a guy right here and he pulled a grenade on me while I'm in that room, I'm swinging out and killing him while the nade's in his hand, right? You could also try to grenade bait people. If there's a guy in the angle, he heard me pull the nade out, and then I just put it away. You know, there's a good chance I can just catch him in a sprint with his gun out. Bait people to push into you on bad angles. A good thing you can do is, let's say there's a guy in that stairwell and I was playing here. If you're somewhere close enough for people to get audio on you, like this is a room that's pretty decent to play defensively against this hallway. The hallway he has to run down pretty long. If you heard him sprinting it, you'd have ample time to lean out and try to shoot him. And then if he chased you, you could always run backwards. You have this whole room to play where you break line of sight. You could even go into the stall if it's like he's way too close and it's kind of your last option. What you can do is you can kind of like shoot at people, he's close enough to hear you, you pull a grenade, and then you try to bait him into pushing you, and you sprint backwards, and now he's pushed himself into the middle of this really bad hallway. This puts him in a way worse spot. You can still play your right hand. You can still, like, jump off of angles, sprint your door. Like, you have so much better space to play with than he does in this hallway. And then you also have this cupboard, which lets you have, like, space when you're coming out. So you're not barrel stuffing yourself in the doorway. Whereas if this guy was playing out of this doorway, he's like right up against the wall. So it's a lot harder for him to react and get shots on you than you are in this room. So you can just like lean out, bait people to push you with things. You can even do it with like a med kit if you're injured. But try to use sound baits to get people to make bad plays. But always make sure you have room to backpedal. If I did a sound bait in here, I'm chilling. He's chasing, I'm running back. But if I was in this room and I hit a sound bait on this guy and he starts pushing me, where am I gonna hide, you know? Like, I'm not going to be able to get in any corner where you can't kill me. So just always be aware of how close you are to people when you're going for stuff. The other good thing to do in fights is breaking elevation. If you're ever like far away from somebody, let's say there's a guy and he's like right here and I'm fighting him, right? If this guy hears me jump and land, he's going to preempt this, right? But once again, I can combine a couple things. Vaulting is way quieter. Like if somebody vaults in this game, it's highly unlikely you can even tell that they did it. So just in general, if I was playing low ground, peeking from around this corner, and then all of a sudden I came up from out here, throw off my elevation, it's really hard to pre-aim. Combine a couple things, right? I don't even have to grenade at the guy if I want him to sit on the angle. Like, let's say I nade with an M67. I know damn well this guy's going to react and run away. Like, he's not going to sit there long enough for that grenade to kill him. So maybe throw the grenade to the side, and while the grenade's blowing up, go for your vault, break audio, and then peek out. This is the only playable section of the map. There's nothing to do out here. So if I'm pulling up, I'm always pulling up from here. This is always the spot that's getting framed. So if I want to pull up on an angle and I think there's somebody holding it, sprint and then jump backwards right away. You can free look to get a better camera angle if you need to. But as long as you're sprinting on your first jump, when you land and you hold any directional jump, you'll always jump instantly. If I just jump normally, right? Look how long it takes for me to jump again. There's like a full delay. But if I enter a sprint, jump, and then do a jump after, it's always instant. Combine it with your free look, you can look around. It's sometimes useful to hit jump a couple times when you hit the ground, because if you land on a bad surface, it might not be instant. Like even right there, that was a little bit delayed. A really useful mechanic. If you're just trying to gain some info on somebody, you want to be hard to hit, go for a sprint jump into a backwards jump. It's a little weird. You could try to jump shot people and like shoot while doing it, but your sensitivity is like 1/4 when you're in the air. So you could like jump, backwards jump, and then 180 your camera, but it's just a lot of mouse pad swiping. Depending on your sense, it might not be something that's like viable. But jump peeking any opening, you're always going to be way harder to hit. It's worth doing in like almost every scenario where you don't think you're going to be shooting while you're looking for info. Like if I'm walking up the stairs, right? If I'm walking up here, it's really common there's gonna be a guy here, 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 even close there. So a lot of the times when I'm walking up, let me reshot these so I can just recreate the play. If I'm coming up to this angle early wipe and I have a grenade, right? I'm pulling up right here. I'm nading the close angle so nobody peeks over while I'm walking up the stairs. Start walking up. I know this is clear. When I get to here, I'll probably preem the elevator, people sitting there. Okay, now I'm up top. If I walk to this right door, I'm overexposed. Somebody's gonna kill me from one of the sides. It's hard to see through the glass. So I'll come up left wall, open the door, can even open the second one from the safety of the wall, jump peek. You're clearing this right angle so that when I'm aiming for this, I know I'm not getting shot from my side. A jump peek is always worth doing on an angle where it's gonna make you hard to hit, and you're not just gonna go for shots right away. So now this angle's clear. There could still be a guy in the kitchen. There could be a guy in the room. So I'm gonna nade. And now I know somebody's not peeking that. I'm gonna clear low. Take this room, get my right hand. Now I can play for kitchen. If I wanted to, I can nade for it. You don't really have to. You can jump up on the couches, break the height of your character while you're aiming into the right. It's clear. I'm gonna walk off low and clear this with the right hand. It's just always worth clearing your angles. With grenades, with jump peeks, throwing off your head height elevation. If I walk out like this and a guy pre-fires, I'm headshot dead. If he pre-fires this, might hit me in the stomach, and then I'm turning on him. Another good area where you can use jumping peeks, free looks. You can like free look this. People like to sit in here. It's also a spawn point. You can free look it. If they start pre-firing you, jump peek. You can jump on the couch, look over the top. Like little things like this where you're peeking off of angles that people don't expect you to be at. You could always get a lucky jump shot, but more importantly, you're just getting info of where people are sitting. You could throw a grenade off onto the angle. Boom. Now you're gonna assume this guy's gonna run this. You can walk outside. Play a low ground so you don't get pre-fired. Do whatever you need to do, but always just like juking people on corners. Okay, so every time you're playing, you're not always going to have, like, the perfect advantage, or you're always going to be on an angle where you're kind of easier to hit than it is for you to hit them. So if I'm peeking off of this angle, right, there could be a guy sitting here in the glass, he's hard to see. Flashlight helps. He could be sitting here on the corner, flashlight helps. He could be up top, head glitching. He could just be on multiple angles, right? So when I'm peeking this, I have to look in, like, 3-4 spots to try to spot the player I'm playing against. Whereas from his POV on any of the angles he's holding, I can only peek from one point. I can only peek from one point. He's up here. Every scenario, I'm peeking from the right. He only has to aim at one point. He doesn't have to guess, right? So a lot of the times, you're on a bad angle, or even when you're on a good angle, flashlighting just helps so much. Flashlights are like super overtuned. They're really broken. It actually annoys a lot of players because they're just really low skill. You just turn it on, and it makes every fight impossible for the person on the other end. But if I'm playing this and it's like, okay, this guy's on like a hard to peek angle or he's pre-aiming, having my flashlight on just to blind them does massive works, especially for seeing through glass. Like, this is hard to see through for me. With the light, I can see through perfectly. So depending on the angle, if it's dark, if you just want to blind people so it's easier for you to win a fight, it's harder for them to track you when you're moving off of like an easy angle, I definitely recommend using lights. They also give you hipfire bonus. I can show you right here on this wall. This is no tac device on shooting. It's just super random. You don't know where your bullets are going. Hit on my flashlight. Super tight spread. Every tac device in the game does this. It doesn't matter if you have a laser on, a light, IR, doesn't matter. But having your light on if you're going to go for hip fires too, it's going to make your bullets a lot more accurate. It's going to make you harder to hit. It's worth doing all the time. Anytime you have to be worried about using flashlights is when you're fighting in an area with like chain link fences, or if you're shooting through like blinds and stuff. So like if I'm playing from this angle and there's a guy sitting on the other side of these blinds, he's pretty easy to see, right? Like I can see that backpack, I can see that box, I can see that knocked over, whatever, right? If I turn on my light, the blinds are actually like way harder to see through. And it's really noticeable in chain link fences, especially when you're close to them. So if you're ever fighting a guy and they are sitting behind like some object, just know that the flashlight's making it way harder to see when things are lit up. So I'd recommend not using them when you're fighting in areas like this. Alright, so anyone who's played the game for any amount of time already knows this, but I think it's still worth addressing, and that's just inertia. If you're new to the game and you don't understand how inertia works, it's basically if I'm walking and I let go of my key, my character still keeps moving for a bit, or if I direction change, this is me pressing my keys back to back really fast. There's a slowdown period before I direction change. So, if you ever want to get past inertia faster and be able to peek corners without dying, the last thing you want to do is just hold D and then hold A. You'll strafe super slow and you have like plenty of time for the other guy to shoot you. What you want to do is walk in quick circles, right? So just do a WASD, WDSA. It doesn't matter how you do it. You don't even have to walk forward. You can just do it like backwards. You know, you can go ASD, DSA, ASD, DSA. It doesn't matter the order, right? The idea is every time you're inputting a sideways input, you always want to input a forwards or backwards in between them. It allows you to cut down the time of you direction changing, and it also just keeps you moving, keeps you harder to hit. Like if there's a guy on my side and I was walking forward, I'd be a lot harder to hit when I'm moving horizontal to him than if I was just doing this, right? You're always harder to hit from every angle and your movement's faster. So if I'm peeking this guy, some people would just do this, which is bad, compared to if I did a circle strafe on the door. Like I don't have to have a clear shot, right? If I'm trying to get info on this guy, I don't need to be that far out to see down that hall on this little angle. All I need to do is get around the corner for like 1 second, then you can learn how to combine it with leans. It may not seem that fast on your end, but trust me, on their end, they basically can't hit you. You're moving way too fast. And then you could also, once again, we already discussed this, do sprint free looks. You're basically always trying to get info on openings without letting yourself get hit. Okay, when it comes to throwing grenades, just know that your character always throws the grenade from the right hand. So if I'm on this angle, right, and I want to throw a grenade down this hall, I'm gonna have to be way more exposed to be able to throw a grenade off of my left hand from this corner. Like this might even hit the door still. I had to be completely exposed to throw that grenade off of the left hand, but if I were to come to the right hand and throw it, I can basically do it from like near full in cover. Like you can see, I was even like around the wall to be able to be shot when I was throwing it off the right hand. Just know whenever you're throwing grenades, it's always beneficial to be on a right hand. This is more useful on maps like Reserve, Interchange, and some places on Ground Zero. But if you're ever fighting on an opening, like say I'm on this small opening, somebody can just preempt the story really easily. I might be easy to see because I have lights on behind me and I'm just silhouetting in the opening. So if I'm ever playing an angle where I feel like it's too bright behind me, but I'm in a dark room, remember that shooting lights, just making your background dark, makes you way harder to see. Like if I'm peeking this angle with a pitch black background, I'm always gonna be a harder shot to hit than if I was shooting at this guy while there's lights on behind me. But anytime you're gaining ground and you just want to like be harder to see, definitely shoot lights. Always make sure that you're not silhouetting. Leave the lights on that are behind your enemies. Like say I'm sitting here, you can just see, I can see this stairwell perfectly of a guy coming up. But if he decided to shoot his lights out while he's coming up, that angle is extremely hard to see. Which I was talking about earlier with this stairwell too. You can see if I don't have my my flashlight on, I can barely see a guy on those stairs. Same thing happens here. If you're coming up off a bad angle and they already know you're there, there's no reason you wouldn't just shoot lights. It's gonna make it way harder to fight you when you're coming up, especially through glass. That's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and come drop a follow on Twitch. I'm live every single day.